Yeah, so I'd like to do something on your Haatzmaut, just a little bit of a quick discussion, if you don't mind, just because I think
Mm,
it's nice to make something special about the day rather than just going through the normal stuff. I hope you don't mind. So the question is Yom Ha'atzmaut is this incredible day where we celebrate the establishment of the state of Israel, and how do we celebrate that? So we know that in Israel there are all these great parties and everything, and because of that, and it really is very much because of that, there's a very big reluctance by some sectors of the community to celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut because they feel that it was the establishment of the state of Israel was established by by the Chilonim, as they would now being called by the secular Jews, and because of that, it doesn't really warrant the the celebration that we have, and we term it Haschalta de Gula, the beginning of the flowering of the redemption, the redemptive process. That's why we celebrate. They don't. So what I'd like to do is just to look at a couple of things, um, and maybe get a bit of perspective on it for a few minutes. So to start off with, I want to tell you an amazing midrash that Rav Herschel Schechter quoted. He said that he knows he's really an Adam Godel, the person that he knows. Rav Schechter himself, just to give a quick perspective, is uh, is really the Rosh Kollel at Yeshiva University. He's one of the Gedolei Yisrael today, without a doubt. He's one of the major poskim in the world, and on such a deep level, he's incredible. And he's not somebody who like speaks like sweet things for the sake of trying to appease anybody. And the reason I'm saying that is because listen to this medrash. This friend of his shows him a medrash that was passed down to his family from one of the original great rebbes of Europe. And in the Medrash asks the question, and no one can find this Medrash. So it's like interesting. But the Medrash asks the question, what happened to the 10 spies? What happened to them? We know that the 10 spies go into Eretz Israel. They come back together with Kalev and Yehoshua, and they give the Kalev and Yehoshua start telling how wonderful Eretz Yisrael is. These 10 spies say, hold on a second, it's not so great. And because of that, the whole thing falls apart for Bnei Israel, and they walk for 40 years in the desert. So what happened to these 10 guys? Well, we don't really know. We don't really know at all. But the Medrash says that their neshamas start twittering in this nowhere land. They can't go. They're great. They were great tzaddikim, but they can't go up into Shamayim because into where by the Kisei HaKavod, because they are the cause of the unbelievable pain and suffering of the Jewish people for those 40 years in the desert and everything that comes from that. And we understand that if a person causes another person any pain, and that goes down through generation to generation to generation, then that is constantly on that other person's record. So now you've got these 10 spies, and they're existing with the pain of Am Yisrael forever. So what happens to their neshamas? So the Medrash relates how they go up to the Ribbono Shel Olam and they say to him, Ribbono Shel Olam, give us an opportunity. We want to be able to make some type of tikkun. So the Medrash says, the way he quotes it, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to him, okay, fine. You want to make a tikkun, you want to make something fixed, you can go down. You can go back down into the world, but there's only one mitzvah that you're allowed to do. One mitzvah. Can you imagine the pain for the tzaddikim who want to be able to perform mitzvahs? We know that when a person moves out of this world, they're no longer mitzvahs. The Vilna Gaon speaks about the fact that when in this world you can do the mitzvah of tzitzit, which is an amazing mitzvah, which is shakel, which is comparative to all the mitzvahs in the Torah. You can do it with a few nowadays 100 rand. You buy yourself a set pair of tzitzis and you wear tzitzis. You're doing a mitzvah, unbelievable. But when the minute a person passes on, there's no ability to do any mitzvahs. So now they're being able to. The neshamas are allowed to come back into this world, but Hashem says you can only do one mitzvah, only one mitzvah. No other mitzvahs are allowed. What's that one mitzvah? The mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. You've got to make sure that there will be an establishment of a Yishuv, of a place of dwelling for the Jewish people in the land of Israel. And as he says, Hamevin Yavin, we can understand it however way we want to understand it. But I think what he was really trying to say is that we don't really understand why HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave people like David Ben-Gurion, Herzl. These are people that have no real relationship to Yiddishkeit mitzvah performance in the way we understand it. But somehow they were so committed to the establishment of a place for the Jewish people in the land of Israel. And that's part of their Jewish neshamas. That's what we've believed, that's what I believe, and something that I believe very strongly about. And so therefore, we cannot say who is right, who is wrong, who is from, who is not from. We don't know what's going on in a much greater world, in a world which parallels where the neshamas are sitting. Why it comes out that the establishment of the state of Israel, which is such an important thing, and in 73 years later we can really understand that, why that would have come from a non-dati, a non-observant source. We can't ask that question, but what we can say is that it's clear as daylight, especially now, 73 years later, that the establishment of the state of Israel has given us unbelievable opportunity as Am Yisrael. And so therefore we can look, the first thing, just to say, do we say Hallel? Don't we say Hallel? How we say Hallel? I don't want to go into the halachic, like, minutiae of this, but what I do want to go into a hashkafic aspect of that. And that could start with the Gemara in Sanhedrin. With the Gemara in Sanhedrin is telling a story of what happens up in Shamayim. Again, we're doing a lot of stuff in Shamayim. And what happens is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides that Chizkiyahu HaMelech, who had brought back Torah into the society of Eretz Yisrael at that point in time, after his predecessors who had been very evil, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to make you Mashiach. But when HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a decision like that, we understand in this great world of Shamayim that the Melachim, that the angels, that these powerful forces that Hashem creates, they will now come and say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, okay, let's challenge that a little bit. And Amra says, the Gemara, Amra Midas Adin, that the midah, the measure of din, of strict judgments, comes before Hashem and says, hold on, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ribono shel olam, Umar David HaMelech Yisrael Shamar Kama Shiros Tishbachos Lefanecha. David HaMelech, who came and he had so many beautiful praises and so many songs, and we say them all today, even out. No, that's part of our liturgy. David HaMelech, lo asiso Mashiach. He didn't make David HaMelech Mashiach. And he was always praising you, Ribono shel olam. Chizkiyahu had so many miracles happening to him. All these miracles happening at the time of the Assyrians, you name it, there was so much happening. We were saved from so much possible tzoras. He never sang Shira. He never sang the praise in the same way as he should have. You're going to make him Mashiach. So in that we see the Gemara is asking a question that when things happen that are so powerful that we should be saying some type of praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we don't, it's a real black mark on our record. To the extent that Chizkiyahu, who should have been the Mashiach in the measure of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chizkiyahu HaMelech is given this, is no longer made Mashiach because of that. And then comes the Chasam Sofer, and there's a whole lot of discussion about should you make a festival? Shouldn't you make a festival? But I just want to tell you this Chasam Sofer. The Chasam Sofer says the following concerning Purim and Chanukah. And just hear what he says. It's beautiful. The Chasam Sofer says, Kvias Yom Tov B'Yom Asiyas Neis, that to make a Yom Tov on a day when miracles happened, and we all know the miracles. I don't want to go through that whole story. We all know the miracles that happened. He says that's a d'oraisa. To make the obligation is from the Torah that when something happens to us, we have to make a kind of like a Yom Tov on that day. And therefore he says even Purim and Chanukah, whilst the performance of the mitzvahs that we've created for Purim and Chanukah, the performance of the mitzvahs themselves are d'Rabbanan, the actual establishment of the date of those days in which all these incredible miracles happened for Bnei Yisrael, that is a midah oraisa. And therefore he says, why is that? Because those days are days where there's an expression of a redemption from mavet l'chaim, from death to life, and from afele la'ora, from darkness to light. And so therefore, what he's saying is that at the time, chayav lomar shira b'peh dafka, you have to say shira b'peh, you have to express. We have to express with our mouths the gratitude that we feel that we owe to the Ribono Shel Olam. And so therefore I believe, and let's stop here, but I believe very, very profoundly that we may not believe in Askalta de Gula, that it's the beginning of the flowering of the redemption, which is what I believe very fully. And we may not believe that it's actually a redemptive process. However, whatever we believe, there's something clear, and that is that this space of the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was able to give us, together with our own putting in our own hishtadlus into that, as in the years of war and the years of difficulty, the fight against terror, all of that demands a spontaneous shira, a spontaneous song in gratitude and praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so therefore, Yom Haatzmaut.
But can I just ask you something?
Yeah.
Who was it that said you have to make a yonta?
The Chasam Sofer and others. Okay. I mean, we're talking about great people. You know, just as an aside, this concept of Aschalta de Geula, the beginning of the flowering of the redemptive process, that's actually written in a letter where many people, many of the great Gedolim signed that letter, and many of their followers don't hold by it. But the point is that I think for us on this special day to recognize that there were great miracles, that there were great things, and that there's a source for us to understand that when we don't recognize those things, then it really is something that is that really it does. I believe that's what when Chizkiyahu is supposed to be Mashiach, and the Meirat Hadin comes and says, "How can you do it?" Because it didn't say Shira. I think it really teaches us an important thing, that we have to recognize the miracles in some way or another. I'm not saying make it a yontif for everybody. Some people don't believe that. But to not recognize the miracles, to not make somehow the day different, I think really is something that we'd have to consider very greatly. I'm going to stop there if you don't mind. I've got to go to davening. I wish everybody a beautiful day. It should be a day of great simcha for Am Yisrael. And please God, we should really feel the complete redemption speedily in our days. Have a beautiful day, everybody.